This recipe is like 90% squeezing limes. Hi, I'm Phil. Welcome to Pretty Good Cooking.
Pretty good.
This is a morning episode. It's like 11 o'clock. This is ceviche. Ceviche was definitely requested by some people. I don't know who they are or remember. I typically just don't remember those kind of things. But maybe John will put in a list of people who requested this dish. Ceviche is there's not necessarily one recipe, but it's more like a style of cooking. So instead of cooking seafood with the traditional method of applying heat in some form, you actually chemically cook it with an acid. So in this case it would be lime juice. So I will acknowledge first off that we live in Central Ohio and have no business really making ceviche, because ceviche is best with very fresh fish. We're landlocked, apart from the lakes we have, like fairly polluted. So with that in mind, you need to find like the freshest, highest quality fish that you can to make this. And so I went to the local foodie place. Their fish prices are highway robbery, but it is like the nicest fish around. So I got a small piece of fish. I paid way too much for it. So here's our fish. We're cooking with halibut today. This is wild caught halibut. So this is about 3/4 of a pound of fish. We don't need the skin. So what a struggle. What a struggle. Not the easiest to remove. So we're gonna go ahead and chop this into cubes, and the size of the cubes that you want, it's up to you, but you need to make sure they're not too terribly big. And the reason for this is that the smaller the cubes are, the faster they will cook in the juice. So I'm doing fairly small cubes, but it's up to you. So I'm chopping them up into what I would consider, bite-sized pieces. A little bit of skin hanging on there. Okay, now while you're doing the rest of this, we are going to put a little bit of salt on that fish. I'm gonna put it in an ice bath. And the idea for doing that is basically you want to keep the fish as fresh as possible. And beyond that, I don't know if the salt like draws liquid out of the fish. It might do that.
It does.
Yeah, you think it does?
Yes, that's what salt does.
So we will add a little bit of salt. I don't think there's gonna really be that much time though, because it's not gonna take us that much long to do the rest of this. So we'll go ahead and tuck that in the fridge till we need it. Okay. All right, next up, we are going to prepare some red onion. And this will be partially as a topping, but also partially as kind of part of the marinade. It'll lend some nice flavor to the fish. I'm thinking 1/4 of an onion will be plenty. This is a fairly large red onion. We're gonna do super thin slices, so you can slice them to your preference. I'm kind of taking the time to try to make these very thin. And we're gonna do a similar thing. We're gonna shock these in ice bath. And the reason you do that, I think we've done it a few times on the show probably. The reason you do that is it helps take some of the harsh bite of the onion. I personally don't feel like I need my onions shocked.
You're not a crybaby.
I'm not a baby. But if you're thinking about like how really this is trying to feature the quality of the fish, if you just make it taste like intensely of onion, then you won't taste the fish. So small ice bath here, and we literally can just plop them in there, making sure to submerge them all. You can break them up too if you want, it's up to you. But just set those to the side until you need them. All right, we're gonna prepare a couple other things. This is optional, what I'm doing. Just a little bit of cilantro that will go in with the fish while it is cooking. And you don't even really need to chop that up. You can just have it in the bowl. And then we were gonna make it spicy. So today we will be using a habanero. Traditionally, particularly if you were in Peru, you would probably use an ají amarillo, which is a regional pepper. They're yellow, that's what amarillo means. But, we're living in COVID times. I'm trying to minimize shopping. So habanero, probably a fairly close substitution. Also, habaneros are delicious, so. If you are worried about your hands, of course, you can use gloves. And this also may be an application where it is appropriate to de-seed the pepper. Totally up to you. I think I'm going to, just for aesthetics purposes, because this is, like a fairly simple dish. I think it'll look nicer just having little pieces of pepper. And when I am done handling this pepper, I'm going to very carefully, thoroughly wash my hands. This is definitely a hot one. I can smell it. So for that pepper, go ahead and mince it up finely. Unless you're super brave and you like huge chunks of habanero. Some people do. All right, now I'm gonna wash my hands. Okie dokie. Now here's like the most labor intensive part, which is squeezing all these limes. I buy a shitload of limes, a comical amount of limes. And I had some in storage. Like this is a lime that looks pretty old. But this is a good use for old limes because you're not really doing anything with the peel. And you know, always make sure the inside of the lime looks okay. If it looks funky, don't squeeze it. But yeah, you need enough lime juice to completely cover all of that fish. And really, I think it's important to use fresh lime juice for this application. Unless there's some brand of bottled lime juice out there that I am unfamiliar with that actually tastes good. Sometimes you can get away with using them, but not this time. This is like supposed to be ultra fresh, and you really would be doing an injustice to the fish, you know, if you use bottled. So get your best squeezy hands going and get that juice going. So I've done 4 limes so far and almost got a cup of juice. I think that maybe I'm gonna need about 2 cups. Now here's a variation. Not necessarily traditional, but I read this from a few self-proclaimed Peruvian recipe commenters that said you can add a little bit of fresh orange juice in with the lime juice and it can cut some of the acidity in terms of the flavor while still, you know, doing the needful of cooking the fish. So I am gonna add some orange, which will not fit in my squeezer, but if you've never, this is a really big orange by the way.
It's huge.
If you've never squeezed an orange like this, it's kind of fun. You can just kind of crush it. And also that'll help us get to our larger juice goals more quickly. But I'm just gonna use the half of that orange because I want it to mainly taste like lime. I think I'm gonna do 1 more lime and see if that gets us there. 6 limes total and half an orange. If you really care about the floaty bits, you can run this through a strainer. I might do that. Why not be fancy with it, right? Right, Courtney?
Right.
Okay. So let's get this ceviche going. We'll pull the fish out, drain the fish. Now extremely cold, which is good. And then I also suggest rinsing the fish, which will remove some of that residual salt that you just put in the fish. Again, I'm following instructions here. All right, so that to me is obviously plenty of juice. So we'll go ahead and take some of our onions. It's like a nice handful. We'll take our cilantro, about half of the chili. And then, very simply, we will just pour the juice over it. I'll use a strainer, and I don't have any other immediate purpose for it, so I'm just gonna pour it all in. But really, it just needs to cover the fish. That's the important part. Look at all that little solids we pulled out. Good for us. We're fancy. All right, now using a tool of your choosing, gently push the fish down into the juice. And you can mix up the ingredients too, but really the critical thing is to have all of the fish submerged in the juice, as this will allow it to cook. Let's go ahead and hit it with some salt. I feel like in this application, this is one of the times where if you got fancy salts, you're eating ceviche, so get fancy with it. My sister got me some real fancy Icelandic salts. This is flaky sea salt from Iceland. Let's go ahead and throw some of that on there. And that'll look great. And if you look closely, you can see that some of the fish is already starting to look more like cooked fish, just from that acidity that we added, which is pretty interesting, I think. The recipe that I'm loosely following recommends 5 to 10 minutes in the fridge. I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer, just to be extra cautious. So I'm probably gonna put this in the fridge for about half an hour. It will just continually cook the fish, right? So if you have ultra fresh fish, and if it's a kind of fish that like you're comfortable eating, you know, if you would eat it like sashimi, then maybe you don't need like super acidified fish. The flip side though is that as it keeps cooking, there'll be a point where the texture will become unpleasant. So it'll be like overcooked in the acid. So maybe we'll try it in 15 minutes and see how it is. And if I don't like it, I'll let it keep going. Certainly you could cover this if you are worried about your fridge for some reason, but I am not, so I'm just gonna throw it in. We'll be back. We'll be back. Okay, it's been 15 minutes. I'm gonna show you what we're working with. Fish looks cooked. Look at that. Science. All right, well, let's fish one of these out and try it.
Ha ha.
Wasn't a joke. I'll get a bigger piece. Check it out. Doesn't it look like cooked fish, Courtney?
Looks blubbery.
Slice it open, see what we're working with. Okay, so you can see the outside may be overcooked. The inside, I think it's cooked. So I'm gonna try it. But you look at the different colors. Can you see them? The outside's really, really white. And the inside is opaque, but you know, it's not as cooked. Let's try it real quick. It's good. I think that's totally cooked. It's yummy. All right, well, it's good. Okay, let's serve it up. The recipe I was vaguely following said to fish out all the onions and peppers and stuff you put in there originally. I can't do that, it's too small. So we're just gonna ladle it out and then we'll add some toppings to make it look real nice. If you want to do individual servings of this, that's certainly fine. I would say you can absolutely just leave in most of the juice. I think that'll be nice. But Court and I are just gonna share a plate, so we don't care. We'll use little plates to, it's almost like chips and salsa, right? It's kind of like how we'll be eating it. Now, traditionally, in Peru, ceviche is served with a couple different things. One would be like boiled sweet potato, or sometimes fried sweet potato. You also might do plantain chips, or boiled corn, or even like corn nuts. And we do have those, but I kind of think we're just gonna serve it on chips like the gringos that we are. So, okay, I got all the fish out, got a little more juice. And if you want, you can top with additional hot pepper. I kind of think it's spicy enough. I think Courtney will definitely think it's spicy enough. So at this point, I would suggest just adding garnishes to make it look nice. So some cilantro and maybe some more red onions. It'll look even nicer if we do it like that. Wow, doesn't that look nice? You can also eat this on lettuce, but I'm gonna go ahead and put some chips on the side. In reality, we will eat far more chips than that, but I want the plate to look pretty, so we'll try to do a more balanced amount of chips. I can't really get it right, so whatever. And there's our ceviche. Also, when you taste it, you also want to taste for how salty you want it. So I think it could use some more salt. I'm at it. One more garnish of that fancy salt. Why not, right? And if you want to be super bougie, just salt everything. All right, so now that we've completed this, time to try it. So just simply grab some of the good, and you can throw it on a chip, or you can just stick the chip right in there if you're a maniac. It's good. I think that we hit a sweet spot. Like, if it continued to cook, it would be like chewy, but the texture is great. The fish's flavor comes through nicely, and also it's really, really spicy. Maybe take it easy on the habanero if you're sensitive to spice. But makes me think of summertime. It is clearly not summertime where we live, so it's almost like a vacation, exotic, delightful dish. So that's how I did it. It's a way of doing it. That's how you could do it. And we'll see you next time on BGC. Bye-bye.